Major number 2 for 2025 is on the horizon. It is the PGA Championship for 2025, which is being played at Quail Hollow Club, where, of course, Rory McIlroy has been dominant throughout his career, but also we do have Scotty Scheffler in great form and Bryson DeChambeau, also a great course fit for Quail Hollow. We're going to break down our thoughts on those guys, get you ready for this year's PGA Championship, break down some outright bets, and our top DFS picks for the PGA Championship as well. Welcome on into the Heat Check, a FanDuel Research Podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research. Joined here as I am Tuesday. It is Monday. Joined here as I am every week to break down the PGA Tour by Brandon Gdula. You can find him on X at Gdula13. He is on Blue Sky at Gdula. Check out his work at FanDuel Research, where he is a senior managing editor. Brandon, PGA Championship coming up this week. We have got a ton of fun storylines. How you doing today?
I'd be doing better if Shane Lowry made a couple more putts. Justin Thomas made a couple more putts. Either one of them. It's tough because I like Sepp Straka, but he made like every putt that he looked at pretty much all weekend. I think he just trailed Jacob Bridgman, who like set a. He made more feet of putts than anyone but one dude ever. So, it could have been better, but it's a major week. We got 2 shows this week, talking more DFS today, more betting tomorrow, but a little bit of both. K-Dog, in each of them. It's gonna be good. Quail Hollow, a lot of history to. It's a movie reference.
I don't know the movie.
Anybody who gets it's gonna be like, wow, it's a deep cut kind of, or it's an old cut, I guess. But yeah, well, I mean, we have a lot of course history to dig into, which isn't always the case for majors. So and look, we're gonna talk a lot about Rory McIlroy, so that's fun.
That course history, pretty dang good for Rory, who is plus 450 at FanDuel Sportsbook. Understandably so this week. Scotty Scheffler is a favorite at 4-1. That is despite the fact he has not played Quail Hollow in the past. And Bryson DeChambeau, shortening throughout the day on Monday, he is now 7-1. So a lot to dissect for those guys. As Brandon mentioned, we are going to have 2 shows for this week here, breaking down our thoughts on the PGA Championship today. We're going to break down our favorite win bets. We're going to go through some course history at Quail Hollow, then the win bets, then we'll dive into DFS picks as well. We're going to have a more robust and complete betting breakdown for the PGA Championship tomorrow. Both these shows are on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. The show tomorrow in podcast form will be on the Covering the Spread podcast feed. So to get those, check out Covering the Spread, but also check out the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page, which is where you can find our weekly breakdowns here on the Heat Check. That show in podcast form on the FanDuel Research Podcast feed. So just subscribe. FanDuel Research Podcast feed, FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page, Covering the Spread to get all of your PGA Championship and in general PGA Tour betting and daily fantasy needs met each and every single week. Big swings, bigger payouts. FanDuel is the clubhouse leader for betting major golf because right now all customers can get a profit boost every round of the second major. Boost your winnings on anything from outright winners to round leaders to tourney matchups and so much more. FanDuel is your go-to for betting the championship. Tee off with a variety of bet types and live bet as the tournament drama unfolds. So don't wait. Visit FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, and swing for some green. You must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino or 18 plus and present in DC. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amounts. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit MD Gambling Help Org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Let's dig in now to Quail Hollow and break down our course breakdown for this PGA Championship. As mentioned, Quail Hollow Club is the host of this year's PGA Championship. It is 7,626 yards and a par 71, so it is a big bopper. Typically plays host the Wells Fargo Championship, which is now the Truist, which they played last week, Philadelphia Cricket Club. It also did host the 2017 PGA Championship. There are 156 golfers in the field, and the top 70 plus ties will make the cut after the first round. So again, top 70 plus ties, not top 65 for this week for the PGA Championship. Brandon, you mentioned we got a lot of course history, but also a lot of course data for Quail Hollow. What should the good people know about this course as they fill out their lineups?
Who might I say who's good? And that's for the other podcast feed.
As you were inherently good. That is the degree I will make.
I like that. So if you look back at past events at Quail Hollow, you basically see that driving distance is important. You see iron play is important, but the fairways kind of average to tight in different spots. I mean, going to play tighter than typical. This week, the rough is roughly average height, according to the GCSAA rundown for the week. Green slightly normal, slightly large, but we got some POA overseed, which they noted is the second PGA Championship in recent history. So I don't know how far back that digs. Played on overseed, so compared to Kiowa in 2021. For anybody who's deep into the turf conditions, Justin Thomas won in 2017 here, 8 under par. Cut line was +5, and the way that he did it, I mean, he did it with some putting. He was 4th best in strokes gained putting for the week, but was also 11th in strokes gained tee to green. If you kind of take a bigger picture, look at everything, and want to look at the importance of tee to green play, there were 12 golfers who ranked finished T9 or better for the week. All of them were top 40 among the cut makers in tee to green for the week, and 11 of those 12 were 26th or better in strokes gained tee to green. So basically, you're not going to putt your way to a win this week. It's also a major, so you see the top golfers performing well. So what does this all kind of boil down to? Got to hit your irons well, so you need approach. Got to hit your driver well, with a specific emphasis on driving distance for me this week. Got to get up and down. There was there's some good correlation, scrambling, strokes gained around the green, and then proximity from 175 plus yards. So again, long course, distance matters. Driving distance, pretty good proxy for distance throughout the bag. But you can look at proximity numbers if you're going to do that, whether it's on the PGA Tour sites or Data Golf and their approach skill tool. Proximity from 175 plus is where I'm looking. Not really looking at like major history specifically. Quail Hollow history, when it suits me, I'm sure I'll lean on it. I don't want bad history, but it's not enough where I'm saying it's a key stat. I think we basically are looking for the best tee to green golfers in the field this week.
Now, we talk every time we discuss distance as being an emphasis about how much that matters, to what extent distance matters. And you always say this with like accuracy, but we're not sorting by distance and kind of picking off those guys as far as like our win bets. But
yeah,
how disqualifying is it for you if a golfer is a bit below average in terms of distance for this field? In like today, we're talking outrights. I think for DFS, you can make some consolations. There are guys, I'll use Corey Connors like this week. I'll use Daniel Berger. That's fine for DFS. But like to top McIlroy, DeChambeau, Scheffler, Schauffele, like guys like that this week, do you need someone with some juice as far as distance off the tee for an outright bet specifically?
Yeah, I mean, had I known you were going to ask this specifically, I probably would have figured out like who's the shortest hitter I would consider. So I'm just going to do a quick
question. Actually,
I'm going to do a quick proxy here. So last 50 rounds, true strokes gained query on Data Golf, best golfers overall, field strength adjusted numbers. Who's short?
Russell Henley. Like Russell Henley is 11.44 yards.
I'm doing a thing. Let me do a thing.
Russell Henley is the answer for the best golfer you wouldn't consider, like as far as like an outright.
Okay, well then, all right.
Because Russell Henley's like the second best golfer on the planet behind Justin Thomas. So, everyone else is irrelevant. So there we go.
Well, I think you just answered the question. So
there's an AI bot that now I think runs our transcripts, and they didn't pick up on sarcasm last week when I said that Will Zalatoris is basically Scotty Scheffler. So we're just gonna go full sarcasm and see like what kind of like clickbait I can get out there in the Twitterverse this week.
Hey, I've been waiting for full sarcasm. For what, 8 years now?
We're doing it. So Justin Thomas 1, Russell Henley 2, but Russell Henley is too short. Therefore, I can only bet Justin Thomas.
So it depends on like what you define as short off the tee. Is average against the world average golfer short whenever you have Rory picking up 25 yards per drive and Bryson 25.5 yards per drive, JT 8.6, John Rahm 16.9, even Scotty's like a plus 4.3. But what I was going to say is I'm sorting by overall form, last 50 rounds, and you get to Colin Morikawa, who is about 1 yard shorter than your average male professional golfer in terms of driving distance. Colin Morikawa is a name we've talked about a ton in recent weeks. He is very, very close to getting a big breakthrough win, but he's average off the tee in terms of distance. How much does that matter?
Like how long would you need Morikawa to be to bet him? Because I think it's like not that much longer than he is. He's at 22-1. If he were like 26, 27 in there, I'd do it. So I think that he's long enough for me to consider him, if that kind of answers your question.
I would probably get there, and this is probably like an optics situation.
Yeah.
If he were 25, I think that would be...
Yeah.
I think that would get to the point of like, okay, just mentally, this guy that we've been talking about for how good he is, 25-1. Sure, he's not super long, but he's a great long iron player. He's just a great iron player in general. So that's really interesting. The most recent winner from Tour, Sepp Straka, he is seventh in total strokes gained average over the last 50 rounds. 5th in ball striking, but he's 111th in this field in distance. He loses about 2.5 yards per drive on the world average golfer. Now, Sepp Straka to win the PGA Championship is not exactly what we're talking about, but if this were a setup that was short and Sepp Straka's coming in, I don't even know what his number is off the top of my head.
70?
Long shot. I mean, look, I'm not into long shots too much this week because basically all of the major winners are 30-1 or shorter, aside from a couple names, Wyndham Clark, Brian Harmon in recent years, basically kind of the list over the last, since like 2022. Sepp Straka does enough tee to green. He's a great ball striker. I'd consider that. So I'm not going to like go down the list and say, okay, let's talk about everyone individually. But whenever you're getting to the conversation of, is Colin Morikawa going to be long enough off the tee to go out and win? Then I think you have a bit of a conundrum in how much it's important to be long off the tee. Now, what helps is that I like some golfers who are long off the tee.
Correct.
And that's very helpful. I could just play guys who are as good as Morikawa and longer off the tee right now. So that's helpful. But I think you are seeing a little bit of that drift with Morikawa for a lot of different reasons. But the distance itself is playing a factor for sure. And, I'll just throw out a couple other names for people who don't necessarily know who's, we all know like Bryson and Rory like nuke it. But, Shane Lowry, average in terms of distance, great tee to green player. Tommy Fleetwood, average off the tee and distance, great tee to green player. Like there are a lot of names where you might want to take a look and just think about how much it's impacting you. And I think the answer for me as I go through this is, yeah, I like Shane Lowry. Of course I do. Yeah, I like Tommy, right? Like he's putting better since that putter switch, which is really interesting. But if he's not going to be long off the tee and other golfers are, what am I doing to myself to say, no, this is finally the week for Tommy? Or
Right.
I mean, it's been a while for Shane Lowry too. Like,
Sure.
I'm just gonna go with some other names. We'll talk about them. So I think I'm using it more as a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make it a must. And like you said, the most important thing is you don't just sort by distance. There's a lot more to it in a major setup than that.
Yep. I think that's an important distinction. And we do need to be a bit picky for this week. Part of the reason we need to be picky is because one of those guys who can nuke it is very, very good at Quail Hollow. So let's have the Rory McIlroy at Quail Hollow discussion right now. McIlroy, as you mentioned, I think a 4-time winner at this course in the past. So we're into the course history section now and talk about guys who do well at Quail Hollow. But let's begin by just kind of running through Rory's history specifically, and then we can talk about other guys who have done well here previously.
Yeah, so Rory is the headliner, the main eventer for sure, and pretty much any way you want to spin it for the week. There's kind of no way around it. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's played Quail Hollow so well in his career. He's got those 4 wins, as you mentioned, 2010, 2015, 2021, and 2024. So 4 wins out of 13 starts. 13 starts, 12 made cuts. He missed only in 2011 after his debut win. He's got 10 top 20s and 9 top 10s in 13 starts. This is a setup that, yeah, there's been changes to it, but whether it's pre-renovation or post, he has played it well. He hits it a mile off the tee. He has, can imagine anyone's just looking at stuff for the PGA Championship and maybe missed the Players and the Masters, but won the Players, won the Masters. Like, it's kind of absurd. And the reality is, though, that he's not the favorite despite all of that, which is something to think about. So also the reason for that, and I know we talk about Data Golf a lot, but they got a lot of cool stuff. They have a new like records page, or I think it's new. I haven't seen it before. Yesterday, according to them, the 2 of the 12 best strokes gained total season since 1983 are Rory and Scotty this season. So that's just context for how good these guys are. And I know Bryson has the game to go out and like win at a major setup where hitting at a mile is super helpful, but those 2 deserve to be the runaway favorites. And it's something to think about. And you want to talk about your long shots, your Sepp Strakas, whatever. I'm going to use the phrase that I guess I just sort of am sticking to now. Like, this is a week where you got to go step on some necks, right? Like, you got to go get it done. And if you're not super long off the tee, you got to have everything precise. You still got to go out and beat Scotty. You got to beat Rory, Bryson, all these guys. So Rory, a little too short for me to want to bet at plus 450, but he is set up for it almost feels like he's set up so well that the only thing that's against him is his own expectations.
Yeah, I think that you summed it up pretty well, where plus 450 is short enough where I can't get there and I can't bet him right now for this week. However, he deserves to be where he's at. And so it's like a legitimate plus 450, which means you have to go through, okay, I believe this guy and Scotty too deserve to suck up a lot of helium. So when I'm betting an outright, I need to make sure that guy can top these guys. So for me, my view of McIlroy matters more for how I view the rest of this card and which golfers I decide I want to bet and thus don't want to bet as a result too. I need to be pretty picky because I think that he and Scotty both deserve to suck up this win helium. I bet Bryson today when he was a 10. He's no longer at 10. So like, I think that he can do it, but like the list of guys who can do it outside of them is not very long. So basically my takeaway from talking about Rory's history of Quail Hollow is I got to be picky. And even if that leads to having like fewer outright bets this week, like I'm going to talk about one for today that I'm going to discuss for today. Like, I think that's kind of the way it could be a bummer for a PGA Championship, for a major, to not have a lot of like outright action. But I do think that if we're looking at this from like a process perspective, I think that's a proper play, because neither of us can quite get to Rory, but we understand why he's there and think he deserves to be where he's at.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get it. I write up betting picks for FanDuel Research, and it always feels like you got to find some long shots. Like, if the long shots aren't winning, if the value's not there for the long shots, it's great to say, oh, I got someone at 150 to 1, right? Like, if he doesn't win, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And the winners lately this is just the new era of golf, where you have great all around golfers. I think a lot of this kind of feels like credit to Scotty for bringing this out of a lot of these guys too. Yeah. But you can get your 70 to 1 tickets all you want, and it's golf betting. It's outrights. If that golfer finishes runner up,
or if they both tie for second, hypothetically, behind Sepp Straka, no
that's
money
also,
for you.
You don't get anything if you're just on the outrights. So I know we needed to talk Rory in detail. We're gonna play him a ton in DFS. He's the best DFS play, but plus 450 for me, I'm not quite there.
Yep, I agree with that as well. And honestly, like, I can't get to Scotty at 4 to 1 either. Now that Bryson's 7 to 1, I can't get there. So we'll have to look elsewhere, but be picky while doing so. Now, Rory, of course, is not the only golfer with really good history at Quail Hollow. So, Brandon, who else stands out to you when you dig into past results at this course?
Yeah, so I went back to 2019, skipping 2020 because there was no event here. Not digging beyond that. I have a full post on FanDuel.com/research if you'd like to see some history since 2003, and also the last 5 events at Quail Hollow. But next up on the list for me in terms of total strokes gained at Quail Hollow over the last 5 events, behind Rory pretty comfortably, is Xander Schauffele. And you look at like the finishes, they're really strong, of course. That's how you get there. He's only played, and to clarify, I'm looking at total strokes gained over the last 5 years. He's played in 3 of them. He's finished T14, runner-up, and runner-up. Now, there's a little more to it than that, because he came runner-up last year to Rory. Rory was 17 under. Xander was 12 under. But Xander was 3 shots clear of everyone else. And then the year prior, he finished 15 under behind Wyndham Clark at 19 under, and nobody else was better than 12 under. So like, we could be looking at Xander coming into this with 2 3-shot wins at Quail Hollow. It doesn't work that way. I understand it, but imagine if he did. And I'm going to say all this later because he's one of my betting picks. So forgive me for basically restating this later on. But we could be looking at a guy who won 2 majors last year and who could have, if not for 2 guys, had 2 3-shot victories here coming in. What would his number be if he wasn't hurt and he won those? He would probably be where Bryson is.
Yes, that was the exact number I was going to say.
Like, it's pretty nuts to think about. And I don't have anything. I never have anything bad to say about Xander, but I just need to point out that, and again, sorry in advance for rehashing this later on. I'm going to do it, but I think it needs to sink in a little bit for how good he's been.
I will join you in that later on, just as a teaser.
So let's move on. Max Homa, salary's $8,600 on FanDuel this week. He won the 2019 Wells Fargo Championship, missed the cut in 2021, T8 in both 2023 and 2024. Did finish 12th at the Masters recently, 70th at the RBC Heritage, T30 at the Truist last week. It's fine. I'm not going to go out of my way for Homa, but if you're building around the studs this week, which I think makes a lot of sense, Homa is not completely off the list at that mid-range, that like mid-range value salary for the week. Tommy Fleetwood, Next up, 11,200, pretty high salary, but I understand it due to the recent finishes. 45-1 on FanDuel Sportsbook to win. He's got 3 top 15s the last 3 years at Quail Hollow. Finished T4 at Truist, 7th at the RBC Heritage, was T21 at the Masters. Switched to a mallet putter in recent weeks. Putting splits are way up. Strokes gained, I should say. Didn't dig into the putting splits from last week, but his first week with them, really good numbers from within 10 feet. Shouted him out a little bit last week. Didn't quite get there. T4 is what it is. You can say Tommy still can't win. I understand it. Also not the longest off the tee. Keith Mitchell, 8,500 is the salary for him. Was T7 at the Truist. Looked like he was, potentially going to be in contention, but didn't quite stick there. 2 top 10s in his last 3 starts, but he's got 4 straight top 20s in stroke play events leading in. Form's really good for Keith Mitchell. Salary's 8,500. Going to be one of my core DFS plays in the value range this week. Seamus Power, I'll keep this one short. Salary's 7,700. T18 or better in 3 of his last 4 starts here. Top 30 in 4 of 5 at Quail Hollow, but the form's just not quite good enough.
Bite your tongue. Tread carefully. I'll bring this up at Thanksgiving. Family Thanksgiving.
Sungjae Im, man, I can never figure out Sungjae Im at this point. If you look at his event log, it's so.
I'm not going to try, honestly. I'm just going to if I miss out, I miss out. That's fine.
You gotta squint to see if I don't know. I should know the term. It's like a radar plot or something. It's like a line on Data Golf. Whenever they go to the left is negative, to the right's positive, and there's the bar. He's always hovering so close to that bar where he doesn't really gain or lose too many strokes in anything right now, which is good, I guess. But he also doesn't. He just doesn't. I don't know. It's not impressive enough to want to get there, but he grinds his way to solid finishes. He's been top 25 in 3 of his last 5 starts here. Not long off the tee. I'm not going to get there. Honestly, he's done it all with putting as well at Quail Hollow. Corey Connors, though, 9,500 is the salary. T11 at the Truist last week. T8, T13 the last 2 years at Quail Hollow. Golfing really well. 7th in ball striking the last 3 months. So if I'm Corey Connors or Sungjae Im in DFS, it's Connors by a mile. 3 more names to round out the list. It's one at a sub 8K salary, and that's Gary Woodland. Salary 7,900 on FanDuel this week. 5th, 14th, 38th the last 3 years. Some good results earlier than that as well, if you dig back deeper in history. T34 at the Truist, a lot of distance for him. Kind of a risk-reward, volatility play. Don't mind that. Probably not going to get there too often, but if I need to and I want some ceiling, I could see that. Justin Thomas, though, is the second to last name on the list. Salary is only 10,600, which is kind of surprising to me.
Came out Friday, which helps. Before he surged this weekend.
Yeah, I thought it'd still be a little bit better.
Yeah,
because Victor Hovland's next. He's 11.
He had shorter betting odds to win last week than Xander did, and yet his salary is a lot lower than Xander's. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, just it's not egregious. I'm assuming he's going to be popular, but it's probably for good reason. 4 straight top 26 finishes at Quail Hollow. 1 in 2017, the actual PGA Championship held here. Form's great. We're going to talk more about him later. And then Victor Hovland, 11,000 is the salary. T3, T43, T24 at Quail Hollow. He's got the distance. He's got the irons to play well. It's never going to surprise me if he puts it together ball striking wise, because he typically does. Putter's kind of hot and cold. Around the green play is always a bit of a question mark, but he's done enough here to make this list. So salary for me for DFS a little too high, but frankly, I don't want to have too many long shots on the card. A 45-ish to 1 number for Hovland is not nothing, though.
I'll pass there, but I do think there are a couple guys worth highlighting on this list. JT we'll talk about later, but the 2 who are so what?
It was just so dismissive of my whole point was, he's 55 now. All right. Um,
I'm good.
if you want like names beyond 30-1, Hovland's the right type of pedigree to do it. Like, I'd rather go Hovland than probably go. Kind of box myself into a corner here. I go Hovland over Russell Henley at 70-1 this week, I think.
To win, sure.
To win.
But like, I'm just not gonna do either. Like, I could go with Hovland at 55, or I could go Wyndham at 110. Like, Wyndham's form is pretty bad, but like
No.
Hovland's is inconsistent too. So it's like, I'd rather just go Wyndham. Like, if I'm just
Hovland is much no.
If I'm tossing a prayer on someone, like I've not seen enough from Hovland to think that he's like there yet. So, but the two guys with like solid form who were in this section for like course history, who I think are like very fun. You said Keith Mitchell will be one of your favorite value plays this week. I think he'll be in my, when we talk non-outrights tomorrow, like he'll probably be there for me looking at like a top 20 or a top 10 in Keith Mitchell. I like that quite a bit based on how he's playing, based on his fit, like given that he can nuke it, but also the irons are getting better. And then Corey Connors, $9,500, not a long guy off the tee, but is still a good history here. And someone whose form is just like tremendous because the irons are just sick for Corey Connors. So I just want to highlight Connors at 95 and Mitchell 85 as two guys who I think are worth circling back to in the DFS section later on. Before that, though, let's talk about some current form. Golfers entering with the best form for this week. Brandon, who stands out to you when you dig into the data over at Data Golf?
Yeah, so Data Golf True Strokes Gained Query last 3 months. We got a couple names, and this is worth shouting out because you don't always get this many names over the last 3 months, averaging at least 2 shots per round on the world average male professional golfer. But there is, I should have counted this before. I'm not going to count it now because you can count it for me if you want. But Scotty Scheffler leads the way. He's at 3.17. I thought it was 7, but Scotty Scheffler 3.16. Shout out to Scotty 316 coming. Can hit that glass break on Sunday, and he's just going to go run away with it probably. But 3.16 for like, yes, I'm sure a lot of people want to say Rory's the best golfer in the world right now, but what?
Scotty gained 3.16 on approach at the CJ Cup. He's a sicko.
Yeah. That's pretty gnarly. And until he won, like, I know you got the Phil Mickelson headlines of like, I don't think Scotty wins, before the Ryder Cup kind of stuff. Like, yeah, we probably, a lot of us probably want to say that Rory is the best golfer in the world right now. It's outrageous to think that it's like, yeah, I know Rory won the Players, he won the Masters, but like, let's pump the brakes. Like,
okay, what narrative is a bigger draw? Rory at Quail Hollow, is that a bigger draw, or is the Scotty Scheffler revenge narrative against the place where the tournament where he got arrested? What's the better revenge narrative? The revenge about getting arrested is pretty intense.
Like, yeah. Now hasn't played here, but
there was that narrative before the Olympics that he like couldn't win at courses he hadn't been to before. I haven't forgotten that, but like I don't want to put too much stock. The arrest narrative is bigger for me than the new course narrative.
I love the narratives, but I'm kind of being like it's so much credit to Scotty for having one win in 2025. And Rory's won like half of his last 8 starts or whatever, including the 2 biggest events of the year so far. And it's like, well, but technically Scotty's actually like noticeably better in recent months. Like, that goes to show how, I don't want to say fluky, but volatile wins are and how much they stick in our perception. Going back to like the Xander thing of could have won here twice, if not for, 2 guys. So I just want to shout out 3.16 is an outrageous number because nobody else over the last 3 months is above a 2.62, and that's Bryson DeChambeau. It's not even Rory. And yeah, Data Golf, they pull on live stuff, they adjust it. So Bryson's next up again, 2.62. Rory's at a 2.53, and then another live guy. So you can take this how you want. Maybe some people I think probably would say they over adjust for the live tour. I don't
Which is
really
very
have
funny because like the first year it was like a thing they under adjusted. And so like a lot of matchups should value against live guys and it didn't go well for you, boy. I think it's pretty proper because I think we got enough data on live right now.
Yeah.
I could see people saying that, but I think that they're properly adjusting for live now, whereas they may not have in the past.
Well, your guy, Joaquin Neiman, 2.21. His salary is only 9,600. So we're actually going to talk about him in more detail because I'm highlighting specifically the guys above a 2.0 in terms of true strokes gained per round here. So we'll get back to him because he's also below 10,000. Justin Thomas, 2.18, salary is 10.6. John Rahm, 2.16 true strokes gained per round. So a full shot worse per round over the last 3 months than Scotty. Salary's 11,900. And then another name we'll get back into, Corey Connors at a 2.09, salary's 9,500. So shout out Canada there. And it's not the first time that we've talked about Corey Connors on the show just yet because we talked about him already at Quail Hollow. So I think that's interesting. Who do you want to talk about anybody here? Or do you want to move on to the values?
Briefly on Scotty, we kind of played the how long would he have to be game with Morikawa. Let's play that with Scotty. And honestly, put Rory in the mix too.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if they were to lengthen, 5 is where I'm like, okay, gotta do a bit more digging here, and I'm like pretty interested. If either were to get to plus 550, I think I would bite. It would make my outright card more crowded than I wanted to be, frankly, but like also like I could be intrigued there. I think I would need plus 550 on either of them. And frankly, like I'd be okay betting either of them at plus 550, Rory or Scotty. How about you? Where is the point where you're like, all right, fine, I'm in?
I kind of want to set it too high so I don't get there. My model's not like if I say what my model says, it's going to be like, yeah, okay, they're never going to get there. But which I mean, I'm not going to be like that coy. It's like plus 650 and like 9-1, respectively. Because I don't like to over account for course fit, or course history too much. Just I don't find it my preference in terms of how I do things. I know they're not going to get there, so it's a little bit of a cop out for me. It's like, look, they're not going to get there, so I don't have to be on it. My question to you is, if you are, let's say Scotty, you get Scotty plus 550 an opportunity. How do you sort of account in terms of units? Do you try to go how does that change your betting card? Let's say you have 5 units, or you can kind of take it away here. How does that affect you?
It makes me a lot less hesitant to bet the second tier guys. So like, are you asking me about someone who has already made bets and has to consider like my previous card, or like hypothetically fresh card and I bet Scotty?
I'm saying like fresh card.
Yeah.
You're just looking at it, but you want to bet Scotty at plus 550.
Yeah.
You can say you have 5 or 10 units, like whatever.
Yeah.
Is it just like I'll let I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so I think if I bet Scotty, I would be okay adding like we both like Xander. We don't need to dance around that. I'd be okay betting Scotty and Xander, but those are probably my only outrights the entire week at that point.
Yeah.
I could go Scotty with like a couple guys who are longer. I couldn't go Scotty and Bryson, I don't think. Like that'd be tough. I did make I bet 2 guys were 8-1 yesterday for NASCAR. Because I had pretty good value in both those guys. I only had one outright on my card already from earlier in the week. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll do that. But that's really more so the exception. And 8-1 is a lot different than plus 550 and, Bryson, whatever he was at 10 previously. So it's like, it would probably just make me have like Scotty and Xander and like not even frankly consider anybody else if that were to happen. So I think that's kind of the way that I'd play it, is kind of work it that way, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of different answers. The only answer really is like what you would do, like what
Yeah.
you're comfortable doing personally.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting because you want to throw out like, okay, if Scotty's plus 550, like is that, you know, the return on one unit is like, is that what you're looking for? Does it matter to you? It's a whole
I
different
would, yeah.
conversation.
Personally, I would bet
So,
less than 1 unit on that anyway,
so
because right,
yeah,
like, yeah.
so
So
yeah,
there's
sure.
that, but
And I just think it's interesting because Scotty and you can throw Rory in at this point. Like even Bryson at 7-1 is like, okay, that's a pretty reasonable overall sports betting number to kind of comprehend.
yeah,
But like plus 400, plus 450 to win a full field event is like, what should your expectations be? It's just something to think about for people who are, you know, building. And for me, if my model showed value and if I also believed in I mean, I always believe in my model. I will
yeah,
disagree with it, but
yeah,
I
of course.
let it do a lot of the talking for me.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't like betting anybody at plus 400 or plus 450.
Yeah.
It's in this specific instance, I see better value elsewhere. So I just think
Correct.
we don't really get into that too often with Scotty because
Right.
his numbers always really short for a full field, but it was interesting this week.
I will say that given the way numbers moved on Monday, I think we'll see some guys lengthen during the week. So I'm glad that we have another show tomorrow, frankly, because I wouldn't be shocked if one of them lengthens, given that Bryson shortened to 7-1. FanDuel doesn't like to have a super high hold on this. I mean, it's always high hold on outrights, but like, they will lengthen guys when there are guys who shorten stuff like that. So I'm curious to see where they settle in tomorrow. I think it's important to have the conversation with yourself of what's your breaking point, where you'll bet someone. For me, for Rory and Scotty, plus 550. I think it's the same for both, honestly. Bryson, I was cool at 10-1. I'd be cool at 9-1 personally. Like that's an okay number for me too. So I kind of had that conversation with yourself because I do think we'll see some good movement throughout this week, some lengthening on some guys. I think they took in a lot of Bryson money this week, or on Monday afternoon, because a certain site may have dropped their probabilities, and it may have made Bryson shorten because they were showing value on him. So I don't think we'll see Bryson shorten because there's a lot of money on him already. But like, I wouldn't be shocked if Scotty or Rory or both potentially lengthen throughout this week. So I'd have that conversation with yourself at some point before then. Okay, let's talk about the value golfers of DFS with good form. Obviously, you mentioned Neiman. He's at the top of this list. Can we have a Neiman conversation too, briefly?
Let's do it. He's won 3 live events out of 7 starts in 2025, T29 at the Masters. But if you look at the major history, and it's always hard for really any golfer, but especially younger golfers, to sort of account for major history to a certain degree. 4 top 25s in 23 starts, no top 10s for Neiman. It's been a question mark his whole career. He's got like some great ball striking numbers. The overall form numbers are always looking good. Just never seems to have it for majors. At some point, that has to matter to a degree. So when it comes to Neiman, if you like him this week, I understand it. He's in some of the best form of any golfer in the field. To go out and say, I think he's going to solve all of his major issues and win at the same time, that's one thing. To top 10 or top 5, if you're like optimistic on him, I'm more receptive to that because, again, you got to go out, you got to beat everybody for an outright. I'm not there for an outright, but I know you were kicking it around.
Close. Yeah, I got close. And I thought, like, when I pulled up stuff today that I thought I would wind up on him, and I just couldn't do it. Like, that major history does matter at a certain point. Like, okay, the conversation in the past with Xander was always like, he can't win a major, et cetera, et cetera. But he was close a lot, and Neiman has never been close. There's a big, big, big chasm between them. And obviously, Neiman 35 versus Xander, what is like 18 entering the PGA Championship last year, 14, somewhere around there. Like it's a huge difference. So like it's different discussion.
I'm gonna pull up Brian Scalabrine. Joaquin Neiman's closer to Patrick Cantlay than he is to
no, that's actually a great comp because like Cantlay, it's the same thing where it's like, at a certain point, do something for me, but my guy. So I'll use him in DFS. I'll use Neiman in DFS happily, but I couldn't get there. I couldn't talk myself into it. And I tried to talk myself into it. I couldn't do it. I'm at 35-1.
Yeah. So that's where we are with Neiman. Sure, we'll probably talk about him again in the DFS section. But next up, Corey Connors. Won't linger too long because we talked about him already, but he fits for current form and course history, 9,500 from a DFS standpoint. Like that. Rasmus Niergaard Peterson, salary 7,800. He's at a 1.87. True strokes gained per round in this span, 3 top fives, 5 straight top 25s in his last 5. To me, most notably a T22 at the Valspar. Also second at the Puerto Rico Open on the PGA Tour. His other results were on the DP World Tour. Just 25 years old, no career major starts, so probably not going to get out over the skis on Niergaard Peterson, but that's what we're talking about here is who makes the list. A name I'm much more interested in is Daniel Berger at a salary of 8,900. If anyone's been listening to the show, hopefully you've been listening since the Masters, like in between there, but talked about Berger leading into the Masters and pretty much every week since then. He's at a 1.87, salary's 8,900, 9 straight top 30 finishes for Berger, 5 starts in his career at Quail Hollow, 8 top 25s and 27 career majors. So Berger, this is not going to be the last time you hear his name today or probably tomorrow either. So
correct.
Eugenio Chacarra, 7,300 is the salary. Long shot at 400 to 1, 1.69 true strokes gained per round. 1 career major, missed the cut last year at the U.S. Open. DP World Tour finishes since mid-February. T20 win T4 and T11. So, I know you kind of always want to find those like diamonds in the rough a little bit. You got some options. It's a major. It's kind of fun. I would rather not, but it is what it is. Talk about a diamond in the rough here, though. Patrick Reed, 9,200 with that salary. 1.61.
I think that's more rough than it is diamond, but go off. Do your thing.
Third at the Masters, T4 or better in 2 of the last 3 live events. Was T2 at the 2017 PGA Championship behind Justin Thomas at Quail Hollow. Top 10 in 2 of 3 starts since then at Quail Hollow. These last 2 hurt here. Shane Lowry, 1.58. Salary's 9,800. Reason it hurts is that I don't know if you were there last week, but I sure was. Couldn't quite get it done. Quail Hollow form's not ideal. No top 30s in 6 starts, but great irons of late. 12th in the field in strokes gained approach the last 3 months. And then the last name on the list is Sepp Straka. Salary's 9,000 even. 1.54 true strokes gained per round. 4th in approach the last 3 months. Won the Truist with elite putting. Irons are just like insane of late. Missed the cut. T54 missed cut at Quail Hollow in his 3 starts before a T8 last year. So I like Straka, like a lot of these names, honestly, to varying degrees. Anybody jump out to you?
Unfortunately, Patrick Reed is more attractive than I thought. Well, he is more appealing for DFS than I thought he'd be, and I'm annoyed by that. So a little thrown off by that. His form is genuinely pretty good, so that's annoying. He's 92, Sepp Straka 9,000, Daniel Berger 89, Connors 95, Neiman 96. Value plays are pretty good this week. Like I typically, go through like my notes for the player pick section for DFS, and it's like, okay, I like these 6 guys. I don't know if I took notes like 10 dudes, but it was like close. There were a lot that I liked, and some of them weren't in the section. Like there's some guys we've not discussed yet who I like. So honestly, I found some pretty good value that I like this week, which makes me feel good about like potentially getting a little top heavy. Like maybe I got to pick between Rory and Bryson. Maybe I don't. Maybe I can just go both. I think you can't, given Bryson's salary this week. So rock solid value plays overall is kind of what stood out to me there, I thought.
Yeah, it's going to be a real decision-making point this week of whether you go super balanced or a little more top-heavy and roll the dice on some extra value plays. I can see it both ways, honestly. I tend to go a little bit more balanced in major setups. That's historically what pans out more, but you do have like one-off options in the low 8,000 range or even lower than that to help you round out lineups. That's totally fine.
Yep, I think that makes a lot of sense. Weather for this week, of course, we're recording on a Monday as opposed to a Tuesday, so take this with a grain of salt and check back on the weather later on, but there's a slight chance of rain each day, not too high as of right now, so I don't think it'll be something that disrupts play too much, but winds will peak Thursday afternoon for the first 2 days of play. which may lead to a slight edge for golfers with earlier tee times on Thursday, playing the late wave on Friday. Nothing dramatic, I don't think, because even the elevated winds Thursday afternoon are like 9 miles per hour, so nothing too bad there. Winds on Saturday are higher, but still just 11 miles per hour. That's also nothing to care too much about. So honestly, should be able to play things pretty straight up for this week from a weather perspective, but check back on the weather later on. Okay, let's dive in now to the betting section for today. Again, we're going to go just outrights for today and a full betting breakdown coming tomorrow on Covering the Spread and the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. But let's talk outrights for right now. Brandon, when you look at the betting odds to win at FanDuel Sportsbook, who catches your attention for this week?
Going to go back to Justin Thomas at 20-1. Convince me otherwise. I don't think you can, honestly.
I can't.
And my model likes it too. The form's been great for Justin Thomas. We talked about him for quite a while now since the irons started to surge back last year and just never really moved off of him. We were there for his win at the RBC Heritage. I was there last week, finished T2 at the Truist.
You talked me into him last week. I was very sad. I didn't realize you had Lowry, so I had forgotten about that. So I was like pulling hard for JT. I was like, okay, cool, podcast win. Forgot you also had Lowry, and I'm glad I did because I've been pretty sad for you.
Yeah. He tried to make some things happen late. It didn't happen. Seb Straka just played some great golf. He's a great golfer, but Justin Thomas, one of the best golfers in the world right now. I would say, I think, we had that Scotty Rory conversation already. Whoever you have 1, 2, that's fine. I think you can realistically put Bryson number 3, probably in a tier of his own potentially, but I think number 4 right now is Justin Thomas, and he's played that way sustainably for quite a bit now. If you look, we're talking outright, wins. We need upside. Only one golfer has a higher statistical ceiling over his last 50 rounds than Justin Thomas. That's Scotty Scheffler. And the best variance in terms of positive outcomes, tee to green over the last 50 rounds, attainable ceiling, is Justin Thomas. So highest ceiling tee to green numbers, and he's coming back to a place where he's won a major, played pretty well overall. The form is there. So 20-1. I don't see, if he had won last week, what's his number right now?
16.
16. I'll take that extra. That goes a long way. So for me, Justin Thomas, and again, it's a major. One of the most important things for me when it comes to majors and outright specifically is at the end of Thursday, looking back and being like, can I live with all of my outright picks? And it doesn't mean just bet 5 of the top 5 names and that's it. But you're not going to feel bad betting Justin Thomas right now with the form he's in at 20-1. I mean, he might not be for you. I'm not saying everyone's got to bet him because what are you not seeing? All that kind of stuff. But look, the form's there. He has everything it takes to go out and win this week. So model likes it. I like it. And that's where I'm starting.
I like it too. I didn't get there on him at 20-1, but I kind of wish I had. I had fired on a lot of stuff already, so it was okay, I can't really add any more to the card, but it's a really good profile. And honestly, if you're looking at these second tier guys, John Rahm at 18-1, JT 20, Xander 22, Morikawa 22, Ludwig at 25, and then Niemann at 33. I like Xander most, which is why we'll talk about him in a second. But JT is in the same tier as far as his appeal to me at 20-1. And I don't think anybody else is close. I have not considered, I know we said 25 and Morikawa, we'd have to get there, but that's probably not going to happen. Right. And he's not there right now. Ludwig 25. Nope. I tried to talk myself into Niemann, couldn't get there. I could talk myself into JT very easily if I had a clean slate. So yeah, I think the 20-1 is a great number for him. And the form is just too good. You mentioned he's got to win here before. He checks all the key boxes.
Yeah, but he's not the only one in that tier that we liked. And I think if you make that tier, that John Rahm to Niemann, to me, there's 2 names. And the other name is Xander Schauffele at 22-1. He won 2 majors last year. He's in this, I guess, probably call it third tier, if we're being honest, maybe second tier, whatever it is. Working his way back from injury, like he's good. The distance is there. The irons are there. Really what kind of bothered him, and don't quote me on this, I don't have any like insight, would make sense that he's rehabbing and his short game just didn't get a lot of practice, and so his short game kind of struggled. But it's he's one of the best putters on the planet, which is why he can go out and just shut the door on these guys now whenever he's in contention. 4 straight top 20 finishes for him. Distance just phenomenal right now. 23rd over the last 50 rounds, which is more than enough to gain at Quail Hollow. T14 at Wells Fargo, then a runner-up each of the last 2 years as we dug into. And again, he has been beaten by 2 guys at Quail Hollow the last 2 years. And yeah, they beat him by a couple shots. That's not something I'm trying to bury. But he beat everybody else by 3 shots both years. So he easily could be coming in with back-to-back wins by multiple shots at Quail Hollow, coming off of 2 majors, and it just feels like, oh yeah, put him with like Morikawa. And this is coming from someone who's been on Morikawa constantly of late. At this point, with what I'm seeing from Xander and what I've seen from Morikawa, although I will say like the putting was pretty good last week from Morikawa, it's Xander, like, don't even like second guess it at this point at the same number.
Yeah, and that's why he is my one outright as of now for this week. As far as current odds, Xander's one guy I do like, 22-1. Putting some data behind what you were saying before, we had talked about him. He was my win pick last week, a guy I liked a lot there, and didn't work out, but he gained 0.74 strokes per round at approach, according to Data Golf. He gained 1.07 with the putter, which, as you mentioned, the short game had been lacking for him coming off the injury. It was back there. And he gained 19.9 yards per drive on an average male professional golfer last week. That is the best number he's had, not just since the rib injury, but since the Pebble Beach Pro-Am back in 2024, which was a rain-shortened event. They didn't have shot length for every single round. So if we're talking like 4 rounds of data, it's one of the best distance rounds or events from Xander Schauffele in his career. He did give it away a bit around the green, where he did lose some strokes there, but elite history at Quail Hollow, runner-up finishes in 2023 and 2024, 22-1 on a guy who won 2 majors last year and looks healthy right now. I'm not passing that up. So that's why I went with Xander over JT. I do like both a lot, but that to me was the difference maker, where I think long-term, like the past 2 calendar years, Xander's a better golfer. That sold me. So 22-1 and Xander Schauffele to win this week. I'm going to take that and think he can go back-to-back at the PGA Championship.
Yeah, top 4 in tee to green last 2 years at Quail Hollow. I know it's going to be a slightly different setup. It's going to make it, everything's going to be tougher. But look, at the end of the day here, I don't want to just rely on this, but you cannot convince me that Xander at 22 is objectively not a logical way to think about it this week.
And I won't try to convince you of that, because I agree he is a good bet. So you got Justin Thomas 20-1 and Xander Schauffele 22, and I have Xander 22 as well. We're going to talk some more betting tomorrow again on the Covering the Spread podcast. I'm probably going to add an outright there, so we'll talk outrights again there. I want to see how things shake out at the top first before I commit to a second outright. So we're going to see how the board shakes out, and I'll potentially add a second outright there. But otherwise, we'll talk non-outrights on tomorrow's show as well on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. Subscribe over there. Before then, though, we got to talk some DFS. And I mentioned there are a lot of guys who are worthy of liking for this week. And we've alluded to some of them before. But Brandon, let's start things here at the top. How are you viewing the top of the field from a DFS perspective for this week? Because I do think you could make a lot of strong cases. Now, Rory McIlroy has the highest salary on FanDuel. He checks in at $12,700, followed by Scotty Scheffler at $12,500. Preference for you between those 2 guys, and how you playing things overall up top?
In a head-to-head against you, it's going to be Rory over Scotty. I think we're getting the inverse of what we got at Augusta, where Scotty was naturally going to be more popular. It was around 35% in tournaments. Rory around 28% rostered in FanDuel tournaments. A little bit of leverage there. I think you're going to get a similar situation where, look, Scotty, I know it's so strange to think about, technically in better form than Rory.
Lower salary.
lower salary. Like Rory's got the Quail Hollow narrative. Like
lower roster rate.
Yeah. So everything points to Scotty is a great pivot from Rory, but Rory from a process play is so much easier to justify than Scotty because of the course and the form overall. You can't nitpick Rory. You could still maybe say, hey, Scotty doesn't have the course knowledge around Quail Hollow, so he's going to be a little bit of a step behind.
Yeah. Sometimes DFS is not easy, but it does kind of present the answers to you. And I think the answer at the Players was to use Rory because he was like, okay, no one's going to use him because he doesn't fit the course, et cetera, et cetera. He was a good pivot there. And this is not revisionist. We talked about this in those podcasts. Same thing for the Masters, where he was a good pivot there because everyone's talking about Scotty winning 2 of the past 3 green jackets. Rory can't get it done there. Pivot to Rory and, do what you can from there. I think that Scotty is that guy for this week. So if you give me one single entry tournament lineup, I'm putting Scotty in it. Probably going to put Bryson in there too, frankly. So it's not like that kind of situation. But for a head-to-head, I will use Rory. And if you're giving me let's say you give me 10 lineups, I mean, one of them is I'm probably putting one in every single lineup, which means I'm probably going 5 and 5. But I might just do that just so I don't have to decide who I want to go one above the other one. But these guys are phenomenal. And I think you want one of them in almost every lineup.
I don't really have a rebuttal to that.
Yeah.
The odds that they both just are irrelevant this week are pretty low.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay. So we're on the same page there. Who else besides them is standing out to you for DFS?
For DFS, I'm going to go, look, you can make the case for, let me see the first name where I would hesitate. Justin Rose at 10-5. That's a high salary for someone who's kind of all in or all out. I know he's finished really well at majors of late, but so Justin Thomas and up, you can make a case like, hey, look, everyone's finally tired of Brooks in majors, or Tommy doesn't have the distance, so no one's going to play him. I think they're all justifiable pivots to certain degrees. But for me, the first name that I'm looking at outside of Rory and Scotty is going to be Bryson at 11-4. He's really revitalized his game in terms of just being so well-rounded in addition to all of the distance. Now, we talk iron play constantly. His irons aren't really as good as a lot of the other top golfers. If it weren't for Ludwig, he would, Ludwig's irons are not particularly phenomenal compared to the other elite players. But Bryson is, he's a negative, but over the last 3 months at least, and I guess over the last 50, I didn't quite realize that, but he gained so much off the tee that his ball striking numbers are comparable to the other studs. So to me, Bryson is at a course where you need some distance and just hammering it is going to be helpful. He's really hard to, convince me otherwise. I like Xander for betting, completely different numbers, but DFS, and I know we both like Xander for betting, DFS, $100 in difference in salary. Who do you prefer?
Oh, Bryson by a significant margin. So I agree with you there. If you go Rory plus Bryson, 89.75 left, I can do that. That's easy peasy. I have no issues there. And I agree that Bryson's number 2, or the next guy up there.
Yeah.
The irons are why he finished 5th at Augusta. And I don't mean that as in they boosted him. They dragged him down. They're the reason he fell out of contention on Sunday because his irons were honestly pretty rough the whole week. And he just kept making up for it elsewhere, and he couldn't do the high wire act on Sunday. But then at Live Korea, his irons did bounce back. 1.27 strokes per round in approach per data golf in that one. So he won that one, gained 2.4 off the tee. So 3.67 strokes ball striking per round at Live Korea. At 11-4, yeah, man. I'll take that all day. So happy to go with Bryson at that number. And honestly, I want to stay pretty tight at the top this week, which means concentrate on Rory and Scotty. Yeah, it stinks to not use John Rahm, Ludwig, Morikawa, but like I'm fine with that this week. I'm okay keeping things tight, skipping over them, jumping down to Bryson next. I might not use Xander in DFS. I get my exposure via betting. Like if he wins, I'll be happy because I'll have money from betting anyway. So he's just such a better play, I think, from a betting perspective than a DFS perspective.
I wouldn't go quite that far. I think it's close enough between Xander and Bryson from a head-to-head situation. Then I think Bryson's a great GPP play.
Yeah.
Even if he's somewhat popular, which he probably will be due to the fact that it's a pretty low salary compared to his win odds. So that's not lost on me. But Xander, we don't talk, like there's really no such thing as floor in golf. So just don't yell at me for saying floor. But Xander's pretty much that's quick.
Oh, I keep it up there. I keep if you're watching YouTube, the ignore the floor banner. I keep it up there just in case I need it. I never get, because like I can erase the banners, but like that's one I don't erase.
Xander is just a generational major player and like is going to be that until he probably gets too old to do it. So I think it's close enough, but I do prefer Bryson.
I think the only reason I said I might not get him in DFS is because if I'm not going Bryson, I'd rather jump down to Justin Thomas at 10-6. So like to me, it's less of a Bryson versus Xander versus instead of a Xander versus JT, and I'd rather jump down to JT because his salary is 10-6, and that's way too low.
Yeah. I'm not going to play anyone in between that, I don't think.
Yeah.
I will, just because we haven't mentioned his name, Tyrrell Hatton is in pretty good form. So just if you want to dig into him a little bit, but to me, it's Justin Thomas for sure over Tyrrell Hatton. So I think we're on the same page where we like the two guys at the top, which is easy. I guess I don't want to put words in your mouth, but we both to a degree like Bryson and Xander, and then it's JT next.
Yes. Xander would be like the next guy on that list for me behind Bryson and JT and this like that range behind the top two guys. So yes, I agree.
This is where things get kind of ugly behind Justin Thomas though.
Ugly in a good way because I don't want to use this range. And it's like it gives me an excuse to not
that's fair.
I love Big Shot Bob. We love Tony Finau. Love and respect Tony Finau. Tom Kim is a FanDuel guy, like Hideki was good to me in season long last week. Goodish. Could have done better on Sunday.
I don't mind Hideki.
Okay, that's fine. But
Tom Kim's irons are rough, but
I believe he might have been dead last in approach last week in an alt field event. So it's like I can skip over this range and feel good about it, which I'll take. To me, that's what makes the DFS fun this week is like the way the players I want to use fit with the build that I want to go with. Maybe that's just confirmation bias, but like I don't care, baby. Like don't point that out to me.
The problem though is if I build the lineup that I want to kind of build, I'm back up in this tier for another golfer, and there's nobody that I like enough to like
in the upper 9 range,
like low 10s.
Oh, okay.
It's basically like it's a Rory JT start.
Okay, I gotcha.
And you get your 8K guys that you like, and you just bounce up enough, and it's okay. Is it? And I'm going to disqualify Henley because it's not quite there. But look, I love Jordan Spieth. I would love for him to go out and win the. But if I'm building my best lineup, I don't know who's in it. It's probably Hideki at the moment.
Sure.
Potentially Shane Lowry though.
Sure.
But maybe it should be Joaquin Niemann. Is that so from Henley on down, or I guess Justin Thomas on down? Who's the first name you're actively hoping to click on?
Niemann. I'd be okay with Lowry at 9.8 and I'd be okay with Hideki at 9.9, but like the one I'm like actually semi excited to use is Niemann just because like that salary is so low. And like I couldn't talk myself into 35-1 to win, but 35-1 to win is a whole heck of a lot different than $9,600 in DFS. I don't need him to win to pay off there. And like, yeah, if you look at like his like overall form right now, look at true strokes gained the past 6 months. Joaquin Niemann is currently 7th behind a bunch of guys who has salaries of 10.6 or higher. He's at 96. If you look at strokes gained to stabilization, which is the number I look at that looks like the spiel. He's 11th there. It's a little bit lower. And like there are some guys above him who are kind of, should they really be above there? But like he's in good form. And at some point I got to say, okay, let's suck it up and use him despite the lack of history in majors. So Neiman 96 to me is the next guy I actively want to use. Corey Connors right in the same discussion at 95 as well.
Yeah, that's tough with Neiman and just how different he is seemingly in majors.
Yeah.
So I just pulled this up, and I don't have the answer yet, but since the start of 2020 in majors, Scotty's averaging 2.6 true strokes gained per round. Xander 2.66. It's awesome. Neiman 1.02. That's
higher than I would have thought.
But among this field, that actually ranks him 37th.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
So, and again, you can't just cut and paste and say,
correct.
Hey, this is how he's going to
like
play.
His form is better now than it was. He's like you said, he's won 3 out of 7 live events, and he's a good course fit because of the distance. But yeah.
I think if I had to, I'd go Shane Lowry over Neiman, but don't try to make me bet that because I don't want to get
I like Lowry
silly with it.
Yeah.
But why is Matt Fitzpatrick 97? Is he
I have no idea.
What have I been doing? Was he like 85 last week at the truest?
It's trending up a little bit. I don't know.
I mean,
we're getting there. If you make it 77, I'll consider it, but we're not quite there yet. So we'll get there eventually.
I'm pretty sure he was in the 8K range last week. And
it's also funny that Cam Young is 95, given he didn't quote unquote break out until last week after salaries were released. But
I'm assuming that's course fit related
for Cam Young,
I guess.
I don't know. In this range, though, for me, it's really Neiman, Connors. Then I guess Patrick Reed at 92 be next, right?
So Rico Hoey's 94.
Hey, just got the big stick.
Aaron Rye, I think is probably too short to want to get overexposed to. It's probably Patrick Reed next. Yeah,
and I'm not itchy to use Patrick Reed. He's kind of in the Shane Lowry bucket where it's from this range I'll use him, that's fine. But I think the next guy, two guys I want to use are in the $9,000, $8,900 range. Is anyone else you want to touch on in this range first, though?
No, I'm not going to play any of these guys.
Yeah, cool.
Other than Reed.
Yeah, I agree. Sepp Straka 9,000, Daniel Berger 89. Both those guys to me are really, really rock solid plays for DFS. Obviously, Straka's not long off the tee, but that iron play at 9,000 coming off a win in a signature event. He can get hot with the putter, as we saw last week. I don't think he can win because he's not long enough, but I don't need him to at 9,000. So I'll take Straka. And for Berger, similar to Sepp, where he's not only he has distance to win, but everything else is so freaking good right now. I mentioned before that Neiman is 11th in strokes gained at stabilization. Berger's 8th in that. If you look at his history in majors before the injury, it was really good. And then since the injury, 21st of the US Open last year, 21st of the Masters this year. So it's he can play in these fields. So I like Straka. I love Straka and Berger and feel really, really good about both those guys. And again, you give me one lineup, I'm probably having those two guys in that lineup for sure.
Yeah, I think that they stand out. I don't mind Akshay at 89, but he's not going to have the distance to sort of make a deep run at it, probably.
Mm-hmm.
You've been a Zalatoris guy for a bit now. Are you interested?
You mean Scotty Scheffler? He was 86 last week in a signature event.
Yeah.
He's 89 in a major this week. That seems not, I don't know. I kind of I'm not totally off of him, but I'd much rather use Berger. I'd rather use Straka. So it's I think that there are better options for me, even though I like Zalatoris. I think there are better options.
Yeah. I'm I'm probably not going to get there.
What about
I don't even know.
David Puig and Dean Burmester? A couple live guys. Puig, $8,800. Burmester, 87. Those guys tickle your fancy at all?
Sounded like a Sean Spencer special there, especially with the
David
tickle your
Puig.
fancy. Yeah. They didn't. Did they register enough for you?
Yeah. Puig's irons are really up and down for sure. Both these guys can bomb it. Burmester's irons are pretty good too. The putter's not. I think it'd be more so like if I lean into like full on distance angle, both those guys stand out. But
Yeah.
there are other guys I like more if I don't take that full on approach.
Yeah, they don't rate out too bad for me model wise, but
Yeah.
I think so close to Berger and Straka,
Yeah.
I'd want to get there instead, or
Okay.
or down to our guy Keith Mitchell at 85.
Yeah, Keith Mitchell 85, and then Keegan Bradley at 84. Honestly, I don't hate JJ Spawn 85. He's longer than I thought he was. Like that surprised me a little bit to see JJ Spawn's distance be where it's at. So like I
Yeah.
think the mid 8K range is good between Keegan Bradley 85, Keith Mitchell or Keegan Bradley 84, Keith Mitchell 85. I don't mind Spawn 85. I think that's a pretty good range overall.
Yeah, and then I think from there you're kind of getting into the wishful thinking for a major. Like,
Yeah.
sure, you want to get an extra. Oh, would you like to play, Rory, Bryson, and JT together? Like, what if you just play 3 names down here? Like, I don't think that's the right way to build major DFS lineups.
Yeah.
Very often, like you can do it, but very often, probably not the right way to go about it. Just based on the studies I've done where it's a little more balanced than that. So now again, if you cherry pick the optimals, you can kind of whatever, but
yeah,
I think the only other name below this, and I mentioned some guys in good form of late in the 7K range, but or do you want to talk Bud Colley?
Bud Colley kind of looks like the artistic son from Wedding Crashers, the very angry child.
I don't know it that well. I think I saw it once a long time ago.
I don't know if it'll hold up in 2025, but kind of looks like him. Well,
about 2 hours ago, it feels like I made a meet the parents reference. So,
oh, is that what that was? I've never seen that one.
Yeah.
Okay. I think. Can I guess? Well, actually, no. I don't think I guess right. Who's the guy below them you like?
Your boy Matt McNeely.
Oh, okay, cool. I have him too.
Just kind of a good golfer.
Yeah.
Irons are trending up in a way that's notable. It's his sort of breakout iron season by a pretty noticeable margin. He's got plus distance. And if I'm not mistaken, he's kind of like making a surge for the Ryder Cup. But, I think he's I wouldn't hate building Mav McNeely into my main lineup.
Sure.
But I'd rather not.
So McNeely has good irons and a good putter. And you get that for $7,700. That's pretty fun. 1.11. Yeah, with plus distance. 1.11 true strokes gained the past 6 months. He's at 1.07 strokes gained to stabilization. So both like the numbers I look at. He's really fun there. If you put in Rory plus Bryson plus Mav, $94 left for 3 golfers. Sick. Like that's a sign me up lineup kind of thing. And honestly, like you talked about just jam them all in. I don't mind putting Justin Thomas in that lineup too. $8,800 left for 2 guys. Like that's not bad. So like I can go Berger and like whoever I want. Keith Mitchell. Like that's sweet. So yeah, all of that lineup. Like that's pretty fun. So I think that McNeely as a way to get like if it allows me to have Justin Thomas as my 3rd golfer, not in a head-to-head, because that's pretty top heavy for a head-to-head, but for a tournament, heck yeah, man, sign me up.
Yeah, that's intriguing. You're basically just asking for something from McNeely. Although if I he's got to be like the standout. Let me do less than or equal to. We'll even do 9,000. Best win odds from there. Yeah, it's Sepp Straka at 70, Berger at 100, and then Keegan, Sam Burns, Keith Mitchell, Sergio Garcia, Will Zalatoris at 120 to 1. All 8,400 and above, and then you get Mav at 120 as well, and at 77. So
yeah,
I don't know. Probably a little bit undersalaried, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Any other 7,000 range guys you like? Your boy Mackenzie Hughes coming off a playoff. $7,600. Not the distance, not the best irons, but good short game. I didn't see anybody else in the 7K range I wanted to use. Any difference for you?
I would rather go Denny McCarthy than Mackenzie Hughes.
Sure.
Probably.
What about, you mentioned Nirgar Peterson in the forum section. Would you go him at 78?
I was gonna say him and Gary Woodland potentially from just a pure ceiling standpoint perspective, but
okay.
a clear tier behind Mav for sure. And I'd rather go like Denny as well.
Yep. Okay. So when all said and done, who are your loves for DFS this week?
Loves, Rory, Bryson, JT. I'm gonna go Shane Lowry.
Okay.
Sepp Straka. I'll throw Daniel Berger in there, and I'm gonna go Keith Mitchell. A lot of love this week.
Rory for cash games and tournaments, but Scotty for tournaments.
Sure.
Then Bryson, then JT. I'll put Neiman as a love, despite my better judgment. And I will put Connors as a love at 95 as well, because I'll be in that range enough. And then Keith Mitchell, 85, Berger, 89. I think Straka is more of a strong but a guy I'm probably pretty likely to use still. And then Mav, I think, is deserving of that too. So a good number of loves for this week. So I think what I want to do is keep my core pretty tight, focus on those guys we just named, and not have a lot of FOMO lineups with other guys. I think that's kind of the way I want to play things this week.
I don't disagree.
Okay. Let's finish up here with our win picks contest, going head to head. Each picking 2 winners throughout the year. You naturally won the bobble hat once again, our weekly head to head DFS content. So you get to pick, do you want to go first and fourth? Or do you want to go second and third? There's no good answer for you. I'll tell you.
There's not, because I'm losing one of my top 2 guys.
You are going to lose one of your top 2 regardless. So who do you want to lose, basically?
I'll put the pressure on you.
Okay, I'm going to take Xander first if you make me go first.
That's kind of what I figured. So I was going to get JT that way.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a conundrum, though.
Yeah.
Beyond that.
So to be clear, I have Xander at 22. You have JT at 20. You get to pick again, then I'll pick to close things up.
Yes. I was hoping that I would get clarity by the end of this and have a strong opinion. I kind of talked down the rest of this tier, but I also don't want to get too aggressive with guys who I'm not positive will be in contention or win. My considerations are Shane Lowry.
Okay.
And probably Morikawa.
Yeah.
At 22 as well. I don't know if Bryson does enough. I need to make up some ground. I could still do it, but I think I'm going to go with Colin Morikawa.
That was the right choice. I would have taken him had you not, because I said 25 was my break point for him. He's the ones closest to the break point outside of the top guys. So I think that was the right choice to take Morikawa. So you have JT at 20, Morikawa at 22. I have Xander at 22. And honestly, it's tough to pick beyond that, which I think kind of confirms the Neiman thing. The Morikawa thing. Cause I would have, that was not a slip, believe me. Maybe it was, I don't know. Imagine preparing beforehand to decide who you might pick if you can't pick.
Honestly, I just figured it would have kind of hit me by now.
Yeah, no, same. Yeah. Honestly, like the one that like as I'm scrolling is like interesting is Corey Connors at 70. Like long shots aren't going to win. Corey Connors is a long shot. However, he does have elite irons. He has good history at Quail Hollow, despite not being super, super long off the tee.
Sure.
Form's good. Ugh. It feels bad, though. Doesn't feel good. But I'll do it. I'll take Connors at 70. I just, like... I need someone to lengthen. And, like...
I thought you were gonna go Jon Rahm.
I considered it. I considered him. I considered Neiman. Honestly, I considered Rory plus 450.
Did you consider Ludwig at all?
No, I did not. I looked into his profile earlier today, but
at least I'm not alone in that.
Like I looked into it, but like the second I looked into it, I was like, nah, I'm good. So the funny thing would have been picking Tommy, given you're always a Tommy guy. But I think he's defensible 40, if I'm being honest. But
like I said, you're getting potentially a generational level tee to green guy.
I got Corey Connors.
That's true. Yeah. So look, a lot of ways you could go, and I think you made a pretty defensible pick.
All right, so I got Connors at 70 and Xander Schauffele at 22 as my picks for this week and our win pick contest. As mentioned, more betting discussion coming up tomorrow here on the show. That'll be up on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page on Tuesday afternoon, but also on the Covering the Spread podcast feed. Subscribe to there, turn on notifications on the YouTube page, and leave us a thumbs up. We appreciate those of you who have done so as always. Brandon, if people have questions for you on social media, where can they find you there?
I'm on X at Gdula13, GDULA13, and on Blue Sky at Gdula.
And I am on X and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work in the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in back again tomorrow to break down the full betting card for the PGA Championship. We'll talk to all of you then. This has been The Heat Check, a FanDuel Research podcast.